This evening we had checked with Mr. Jeffries, and he could not make this evening. He has another conflict, another meeting, a real meeting. And so we're going to have Ms. Lee come up, and we're going to do the same thing for her. We're going to give the courtesy of a 2-minute opening, a 2-minute close, and about 10 minutes worth of questions from the floor. And again, what we're looking for is the differences between the candidates. So if you could help elaborate and let us know who you are. Okay. And when you're ready, go ahead and start.
I am Dr. Nelva. I am running for State Senate District 17, and thank you so much for having me here. I really need to give you guys a different tweak to my, for those that have seen me before, I'm going to give you a different tweak because Chris Bond has known me now for several months and had no idea that I was pro-life. So I'm going to tell you guys, I've come out from the very beginning as a conservative Democrat. I've always been a conservative Democrat in that I'm pro-life. I've always been. I tell people my little story. My mother actually contemplating having an abortion when she got pregnant with me. She was a senior in high school and didn't think she could raise a child. And because my grandfather is a pastor, her faith made her change her mind. And I'm here living proof that even though life throws you curveballs, that you have to follow your convictions. So I've always been pro-life. As a Democrat, that makes me a bit of an oddball. Not so much in Georgia, though. There are many pro-life Democrats out there. They probably just don't share that view with many out loud. I'm also pro-marriage between a man and a woman, and that's also one of those things that wasn't even an issue a few years back, so I'm not even sure why it's an issue today. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'll do if elected. I would like to revitalize the small business sector and improve the education system for our children. My proven leadership as a business owner and educator makes me uniquely qualified to do that. I've had a business since 2004, and I have never been in debt. I've never had any debt with my business, and I'd like to bring that expertise to the Capitol. I believe, like Chris, that we shouldn't spend money that we don't have. I also have a background in health education, and I believe that our educational system does need some improvement here in Georgia. I believe that we can go from 48th to #1 in the nation, so I'd like to be able to work on that. And I'd love to have you guys to vote for me. Please visit my website, electdrlee.com.
You have any questions for Ms. Lee?
I do. We are right now voting on charter school amendment to the Constitution. Last night's forum in Rockdale County at the public library. We videotaped it. It'll be available tomorrow for everybody to see on NBCTracy.com. I'm the only ones videotaping it. But it was a very lively debate. And just want to know what your position is on that amendment, and if you're for or against it, or whether you would change it, or what your position is.
Well, for starters, I'm a mom. I have 2 boys, and I believe that we need options. Like I said, I think our educational system needs some improvement. I homeschooled my oldest for quite some time, from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade, because I wasn't crazy about the educational system options that I had. So I'm all for options. Particularly for this amendment, though, I am against it. And the only reason is because I think it takes away local control. It takes it back to state. And we're all about small government, right? So I don't understand that.
Do you know what your opponent's position is on it?
He is for it. So we just had a lunch a couple of weeks ago, and he specifically told me that. So, but yes, I'm all for options. I don't necessarily support that amendment.
Why are you a Democrat?
The question was, why are you a Democrat? You know, I've always been a Democrat. can I say this now? No, I won't do it. I was talking to Chris earlier. For me, the life issue is a big deal, and Republicans are for capital punishment, and so for me, the life issue was split between Republicans and Democrats. I didn't really feel that values-wise, I was, in any, I was compromising my values. However, with this gay rights thing, I'm starting to question, to be honest with you, I'm starting to question that, so.
Have you covered yet, we asked Chris the question, Chris Vaughn, how do you feel about, I guess, gun rights and so forth, like gun ownership, private ownership, and so forth?
That's why I asked Mr. Kidney. We had a nice conversation over the phone a couple of weeks ago. I honestly I'm not really versed in the gun laws to really have a strong opinion one way or the other. My son is in Boy Scouts and he keeps telling me, Mom, I need a gun so I can go hunting, and I'm just like, oh, my 11-year-old with a gun. But his best friend has a gun, and so he wants to have a gun too. My husband's retired Air Force, he would like to have a gun as well. So I don't necessarily, I'm not anti-gun, I can't say I'm rah-rah, carry a gun person, because that's never been, that is just not where, my experience, put it that way. But Mr. Kidney has been very helpful in giving me a lot of information about the statistics. I only hear all the bad news, the people that shoot up people in theaters and all of that. But he's been very helpful as far as giving me the statistics on, those that have licenses versus those that don't, and the crime stats and all of that. So let me just say that I'm very open to the needs of my constituents, especially if that is what the majority of my constituents want. And so I'm not opposed, put it that way, to the Second Amendment.
Okay, you realize if elected, you'll be trying to disarm our future congressman? I said, if you realize if you get elected, you'll be probably trying to disarm our future congressman when he's at home.
Why would I disarm him?
Well, if you vote against private ownership of firearms.
But I didn't say I would do that.
Oh, no, I'm saying if you get elected, you make history doing that. Okay. Any questions from the board? There we go.
Okay. Making sure we're on record.
I know that as the senator from the 17th, you would just be representing 3 precincts, 4 precincts in this county. Would that affect how much time you would come to Rockdale?
I don't believe so. I think for those that have been, follow me, I've been up here quite a bit. I have family that live here in Rockdale County, so I don't believe it will affect that in any way. I actually enjoy these forums. I get to meet new people every time. I enjoy canvassing. I enjoy meeting the constituents, so I don't believe that will be an issue at all.
Where do you live?
I live in Locust Grove, in Macdonald. Well, yeah, Locust Grove.
You're a Democrat, but you sure are have a lot of values of Republicans. Congressman West in Florida has been really criticized by the Black Caucus up in Washington on the Gulf side. Have you run into this with the Democratic Party here in Georgia?
Okay, you can cover your ears. Yes, I have.
But then my question would be, why do you want to stay a Democrat if you're having that? I mean, you have the values of a Republican.
All I can say is I started out as a Democrat, and so I thought it would be dishonest of me to change. So.
Any further questions from the floor?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, hold on a second. Wait.
I just, I wanted to answer something. It's amazing. I think every candidate in here we need to have a reunion sometime in December, because I feel like y'all are all my family, Republican, Democrat, everybody else, because I've got to know, Nelva. I say it this way, sometimes the party leads you, sometimes you don't lead the party, which I think is funny, I don't agree with everything the Republican Party does, but again, I always filter everything through church. It's all my life, it's all I know, but church is a great, great instance of life. And I've often asked church members, why do you go to that church? You know that it's a dying culture, you know that they can't pay for it, and you won't give it up. And it gets down to tradition, it gets down to history, and it's very hard for people to ever walk away from that. And I always try to give a lot of grace to people, because it's a part of who I am, but we have to give grace to those people, because sometimes it takes a transformational moment, such as the gay marriage issue that they keep proposing, for some people to make that change. And so, so I always honor anybody who tries to change it from the inside out. That's a hard thing to do, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Because I was always ticked in the 90s and the 2000s with Republicans. They spent like wild women and wild men and wild drunken sailors in the early 2000s. No offense to the women or men, okay? But, so I appreciate your honesty, and I really sincerely mean it.
I'm with you, Diane. Yeah, we'll talk to him.
Dr. Lee, I'm the tax commissioner here in Mondale County, and I also am chairman of the tax commissioners legislative committee, and I also serve with the
Closer, Dan.
Association
Thank you.
on the revenue finance committee. And you touched briefly on the topic, and you talked about local control. And we spend a great deal of time battling with the legislature over that issue. Would you expound a little more about your philosophy on local control?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, those that are elected officials locally know their constituents, know the needs of their constituents. And normally, usually, they are the best able to make decisions for their constituents. I mean, the farther away you get from someone, and I applaud Chris Bond for saying that he's going to stay here in Georgia, right, rather than move away to Washington. The farther you are, the less in touch you are, the less knowledgeable you are as to what your constituents want. And same with the gun rights issue. I mean, if I lived in another state, that probably wouldn't even be an issue. But because my constituents want that, I have to respect them, and I'm a servant. I believe that elected officials are servants, they're not to be served. And therefore, local elected officials have more understanding as to how the dollar should be spent. And so I would definitely support every time an issue came up that required that you had the resources available for the local elected officials. I would side on that side, on the side of the elected officials.
It's my understanding in the state of Georgia, we don't have to claim being a Republican or a Democrat.
But you do as an elected candidate.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I understand that, but as voters, yes, I understand that. But it seems to me, as polarized as our parties are, that it's great to have good thinkers coming toward the middle to work together for this country.
Dr. Lee, if you were elected, do you believe changing parties to the Republican Party will affect your values and the way you feel about things, period?
Are you talking about my pro-life values or any values?
Just any value. I mean, change your whole platform, a thing that you feel that's, that you should do as a representative in the state senate, whether you're Republican or Democrat, will that affect you?
No. I am who I am. I'm not going to change my values.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are about taxes and spending, since...
I think that my experience as a business owner, especially in these tough times, recession times, and never having gone into debt, I think that it's going to bring a fresh perspective to the capital. I believe that just similar to what Ms. Vaughn talked about as far as personal debt, statewide debt, and then national debt. I think we have gotten a little bit drunk on debt. And so and we need to kind of taper back a little bit and figure out what our needs are versus our wants. And that goes from personal to person. And it's a tough thing because, you know, I'm trying to teach my 11-year-old that. That's a need. Is that a need or a want? And it's very difficult for a lot of people to make the distinction. But as elected officials, we have to, because it's not our money, first of all. It's your money. So we have to make those tough decisions. And then I say a lot of times it's courage. A lot of times they lack the courage to do what's best because they want to get reelected. You know, so I'm not, I believe that we have to have people of courage in elected office. One of the things that I've done that's not been very popular is I have made a vow not to take any money from lobbyists. And everybody looks at me and goes, oh, you're just saying that. Well, I haven't taken any money from lobbyists and I won't. And I believe there's two reasons. One is because I want my time to be spent with the people and my influence to come from you. I don't want to be influenced by lobbyists. And that's the issue of courage. You know, it was an issue of conviction for me. And the same will apply to how I go about, you know, helping out to devise a budget and how we're to spend the hard-earned money that the citizens need.
Okay, and we're going to let you go ahead and give a 2-minute close. We do have a presidential debate to get to this evening, and we do want to finish up the evening with the chairman's position with Mr. Hill. So tell us again why we should vote for you and the difference between you and Mr. Jeffries.
Well, I honestly believe that I have been called for this position. Anyone that asks me, they're saying, no, but you know, this is a Republican district, you have very little chance. And I say, you know what, we don't do things by sight, we don't walk by sight, right? We walk by faith. And I really believe that. I believe that this is what God wants me to do for whatever reason. I don't know if I'm going to win or lose, but this is what He has asked me to do, and I'm going to do what He tells me to do. That's number one. Second, I honestly believe that my integrity and my zeal will allow me to make a difference in this community. I believe that to my core. And my experiences as a business owner and an educator really does give me an insight into what our business needs. I believe that the small business sector is the lifeblood of our economy, and we need to revitalize it. We need to put our money where our mouth is really, and allow small businesses to flourish again. So I really would love to have your vote. Please vote for me, Nelva Lee, on November 6th, or right now, actually, this is early voting. Thank you so much.
I have to tell you, this has been kind of an unusual night for me. Like I said, I've been to many forums since I came to Rockdale County, but it is refreshing to see the talent we have and the personnel we have, and we're going to be well represented in our races, that's for sure. So I really want to again thank the folks that are coming out and those that might have to leave early. We are going to go ahead and have Mr. Hill give us 2-minute opening and a close, and then we're going to take about 10 or 12 minutes worth of questions from the floor.
Don, may I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
Because I asked this, but Democrats that don't show here, I want to ask you about Republicans. SRCA is nonpartisan.
John Hammonds was the chair for the program. And
why wasn't he here tonight?
John, you're the one to contact.
Yes, I did. I contacted the office and left a message, and then the office did get back with me and just say he's just simply not coming.
He said what?
He's just simply not going to come.
This is his anniversary,
Hey, pardon?
his 30th anniversary.
Well, I guess he's going to get a pass tonight. But again, Mr. Hill, give us a 2-minute opening, and then we'll take some questions from the floor.